What up guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I've got for you my pinnacle character build in Oblivion. I started out messing around with Spellblade, optimized him, switched over to a Poison Archer, and finally I'm here. Jack of all trades, master of all things, pack mule, does it all, played on master. It's no secret that Oblivion has a difficulty problem. Playing on any difficulty is a huge challenge, and I don't mean that it's hard. Let me explain. The AI combat maneuvers are not programmed to be better or worse when the difficulty changes. Instead, changing to expert or master mode will simply increase the EHP and effective damage that the enemies deal in the game. This means if you play on normal difficulty, at some point the enemies will basically do no damage to you. You'll need to aggressively limit yourself in your defensive options, and you won't be challenged at all. Also, throughout your playthrough, enemies may become too tanky for your basic hack and slash builds to handle. Lame combat is the death of a game, for me. So I simply cannot recommend playing on normal difficulty without extensive self-imposed restrictions such as large limitations on armor and magic resist. Expert requires additional tools and tricks to boost your damage to handle these enemies, and the damage they do is respectable. I have a feeling that this is an excellent difficulty to play on, and I may endeavor to balance an endgame build around expert difficulty, but for now, I have extensively playtested and fleshed out all the systems in the game. In this video, I will go through all the build options available for you to play on master difficulty and smash them into a single build. We are going to be everything in the game. We will use Conjuration, a bow, a dagger, pure destruction magic, potions, poisons, sneak acrobatics. Basically, if it's in the game, this character will do it and do it all on master at level 36. The character is so strong, in fact, that you'll need to limit yourself extensively to make the game more challenging. Towards the end of the video, I'll provide my preferred Hotkey Wheel setup and armor and resist limitations that I use to allow the game to threaten me. So to get this out of the way, right, I love duping. The way I see it is if I collect all the ingredients, or an arrow exists in the game that a bandit has, there's no reason that as the arena champion, leader of the Mage Guild, Fighters Guild, Thieves Guild, leader of the Dark Brotherhood, and savior of the world, why the heck wouldn't I be able to commission the acquisition of more of these inexpensive common items, especially since I'm the only one with the balls to even enter an Oblivion Gate? I should be swimming in gold, and chicks, and anything else I want supplied graciously from the rulers of the land. Don't worry if duping isn't your thing, because there's a number of ways to play this character in master mode without duping. But you'll have to pay attention because God knows I'm not going to point them out. I believe this video is all-encompassing. It covers all the ways to play this game on master mode, aside from block scaling, which I just haven't looked into yet. So stick around, you might learn something. Last thing to say before I start the video is you can do this with any class, race, birth sign, and major skills, etc. Just because that's how the game works. Don't worry about it. If you have a different race besides Breton, simply account for that by adding more resists on your gear. It's no big deal. So with that out of the way, let's go over the schools of magic and how they will be used in this build. Destruction. Leveling this will give access to damage spells and weakness to magic, elements, and poison spells. Once you obtain and can use a spell, it can be applied to your weapon enchantments as well. You can craft super powerful spells now. I have a Spellblade guide on my channel that goes over some other spells you could use, so if you're interested, be sure to check those out. Destruction magic and enchantments are by far the strongest way to play the game. There will be a section later in the video that goes over spellcrafting and enchanting required for this build, but for now, let's quickly discuss why is it so strong. Well, how weakness to magic works in this game is that a single application of it increases the spell effectiveness, meaning that if you apply 100% weakness magic debuff to an enemy for 4 seconds, the next time you cast the same spell, that spell value will go up to 200% for 8 seconds. Looking at this chart, when you combine this with other elements, you can see how fast the damage ramping can get out of hand. Duping guide. Before we get into arrows, poisons, potions, and enchanting, let me show you how to dupe items on PC at least. But this is the duping method that I've found, and it has the least number of inputs. Basically, you drag a stack of anything into a container, say 100 lockpicks. It'll ask for the amount selected, you select the max amount, but it won't transfer the item. That's strange. Now go over to the thing you want 100 of, and shift click it over, boom, Now it moves it over, but it still remembers the 100 quantity you had before, except now it's 100 of whatever you want. Duped. What a great feature. Marksman. This skill doesn't need to be leveled. However, getting it to level 75 will unlock a chance to paralyze on hit, and getting it to 100 will unlock an even higher chance to paralyze on hit. The arrows I use will be 80 fire damage arrows in an AoE. These are obtained from enemies at Sundercliff Watch. Just go there, murk some guys, and voila, you got them. They come in all elements, but I use fire because it's the best element in the game. Dupe 1,000 of these arrows, craft yourself some double weakness bows, and you're good to go. Now, even on Master Mode, you can shoot enemies just a few times and they'll die. That's right, this is the Marksman build. Nothing else to it. No poisons needed, no spells needed, just the arrows and the bow, and you'll be moderately challenged on Master Mode. Blade. So the main reason I use Blade is to blitz down ghosts, undeads, and other poison immune enemies. I use the Daedric Dagger because it has added durability and a really cool aesthetic. For practical purpose, the skill level in Blade doesn't matter at all, but there are 3 schools of thought here. 1. You can go with a Spellblade type character where the blade just has weakness ramping enchants on it, hitting an enemy twice and then blasting them with a high damage spell to kill them instantly. 2. You can go for a Berserker approach where the dagger could look something like this with low elemental damage on it. Go hit an undead enemy like 6 to 8 times and that ramping weakness will take care of the rest. I picked fire for this since the undead are weak to fire. The problem with the Berserker approach is that it uses more of your charges. Since we have so much carry weight, we can simply haul around 300 Varla stones and not worry about it. But the third option here, and I believe is the best option, essentially you go for a 2-hit combo. First hit applies the weakness, second hit apply poison to your weapon and hit them. A true 2-punch combo. Variety is the spice of life, and I switch between these playstyles for whatever I'm feeling at the moment. Conjuration. This is a pretty easy skill to power level. My final build will use a scroll for this slot to save on mana, but realistically I'm just doing it for the style points. You know, to flex on the NPCs who can only afford unenchanted gear and like 2 potions. So how do we pick a minion to summon? Firstly, it needs to be tanky enough to take a shot or 2 from super high damage enemies. Second, it needs to have elemental damage because we scale elemental weakness. There are a few summons that work here, and the 3 that stand out to me are the Lich, the Daedroth, and the Frost Atronach. The Fire and Shock Atronachs could be considered here, but in my experience, the Shock Atronach's a little slow, and the Fire Atronach is just not tanky enough. The Daedroth might be the best here, for undead dungeons at least, since he can shoot the fireball, and he's super tanky. Well, a Frost Atronach is a great option for things like Oblivion Gates, and it's super strong, it's tanky, it heals itself, and it seems like it chooses the Frostbolt spell all the time. So configuring my build around fire and frost, basically I can use either the Daedroth or the Frost Atronach, whatever makes sense here. Alchemy. Talking about fire and frost weakness, here is the killer poison I use. It deals fire, frost, and health damage along with silencing the enemy. So leveling Alchemy is a great way to make money and get really strong in the game. I've talked about this subject a lot in my other videos, so I won't say much here, but here are the poisons and potions this build uses. Okay, I'll quick summarize it. Basically, why poisons are so strong is they do not receive damage reductions like everything else in the game for playing on harder difficulties. So this 20 some odd damage per second poison is basically a death sentence. Other skills to level. The most important skill to level in this category is heavy armor. Getting this to 75 to reduce carry weight is key, but maxing it to 100 will increase it even more. This allows you to carry more gear, more arrows, poisons, potions, etc. Another great skill to level is Illusion. This will allow you to put Paralyze on your crafted spells for just 1 second with barely any extra cost. Another great skill, Mysticism, because this allows you to enchant your weapons with Soul Trap and put Soul Trap on your crafted spells. Power leveling these 2 skills is pretty easy once you have a crafting table. Simply grab a high mana cost spell, spam it for a few minutes, rest, and repeat. Weapons and gear. Here are the weapons I carry around. So if you're following this as a build guide, craft these suckers and you're good to go. The boots here will be the unique boots of Spring Heeled Jack. This is a quest item that gets destroyed in the Thieves Guild final quest mission. so be sure not to wear it until after the quest is over to preserve the item. We wear it because it gives us an enormous boost to our acrobatics. This thing will turn you into Jordan, giving you crazy ups. And if you have an incredible mustache like me, the blade turn hood is an excellent item to slot in. This item gives ridiculous protection. So, to nerf our armor rating a bit and increase our speed, we're going to use the Mo-Reg's pants. The rest of the armor pieces are just Daedric enchanted pieces with feather. This will allow you to carry more duped items. If you didn't pick Brenton, a few of these pieces can also be magic resist. Or if you just want to play the game on super easy, choose the Mundane Ring. For the amulet, use the Acrobat's Amulet if you can find it. 62 mobility stats is just incredible. For rings, I picked the Ring of Skimming and the Ring of Vitality. Fortifying speed and athletics by 20 each is just crazy, much higher than the Sigil Stone enchantment, making this an obvious inclusion. It also gives water walking, which can be annoying at times, but overall, a super good ring. The other ring is just amazing as well. It gives immunity to poisons, disease, and paralyze. However, you'll still get paralyzed by certain attacks in the game. This ring is a solid inclusion. Spellcrafting. So start it off with Soul Trap for obvious reasons. You can put as many modifiers on these spells as you want, and the mana only goes up based on their values. So, since fire is our primary damage, we will apply the largest amount in fire damage. Going up to 3 seconds seems a bit much for a high damage spell, so I stopped at 2. So next I applied all 5 weakness curse effects at 2 seconds because it's extremely inexpensive. The duration will further be buffed by any weakness magic effects already applied. I prioritized fire and magic weaknesses here with longer durations as those are the ones that matter. I didn't apply a 1 second paralyze this time around because I didn't want to make it too strong. I might walk this back in the future. Build overview. So with all the tools out of the way, let me explain how I put all the pieces together. Basically, I wanted something strong enough to take on Master Mode without trivializing the game. So for example, just looking at destruction, we could simply make a triple damage, triple weaken touch spell with say 40 range, and go around chain casting that effectively AoE nuking characters. We can cheaply put paralyze on that same spell, so enemies that get close to us just drop to the ground. Drink 10 or so Fortify Wisdom potions, and now you're going to have enough mana to fuel that effort. But the result is that everything dies and nothing threatens you. Instead of going down that path, I decided to limit myself to a single destruction spell with no mana restore or wisdom ramping on my character. This way, if I stack resistance debuffs on an enemy, I can cast this one final spell to execute them. For me, this adds an element to combat that feels rewarding. It's faster than shooting that final poison arrow, and it requires me to be in melee range, which is a great option for when being charged. Since my mana doesn't come back very fast, it feels like I should use this when the situation calls for it. Alternatively, if someone's charging me and I just don't want that smoke, I summon my crocodile buddy to take some of the heat off. And since I'm using fire weakness ramping, now he hits like an effing truck. I make sure to keep my magic resist at 50 and my armor pretty low as well. I try to avoid all forms of reflect damage, except I do have that blade turn helm. My armor rating is a good amount lower than the armor cap, and it can drop rapidly if I'm fighting too much and don't go for repairs between fights. And as you can imagine, with all these limitations on Master Mode, I can die in fights if I get too aggressive or careless. Hotkey Wheel. So now you know the theory and intention behind the build. Let me share with you the final Hotkey Wheel. Starting off, we have a speed buffing Restore HP potion. Since I was able to nix mana from the build entirely, I only need 1 potion to buff and heal me. I carry around 1,000 of these. For about 100 pounds, it's well worth it. Then I have the Varla Stones. At 1 pound each, I like to carry 200 to 300 of these. And then I have 2 poisons I use. One, a double damage paralyzed poison, and a triple damage silence poison. Now these are pretty strong, so I avoid using them unless I'm at low HP. Then I have the Azura's Star Infinite Soul Gem, just so I'm not spamming Varla Stones. I've got my Crocodile Summon, mana not required, and then I have my 1 use of mana, my high damage 1 tap spell. Since I'm not using any form of mana restore, I can only cast these once per fight usually. And then, of course, I've got the good old Repair Hammer. Outro. So there you have it. My pinnacle character complete. Not too tanky, a good variety of magic, melee, and ranged, and now I'm back to the drawing board. My work in Oblivion Remastered might be done. If I get a pile of likes or subs, I might take a shot at balancing an expert build, maybe something like a librarian character that only uses scrolls. Post a comment below if you have any ideas that would be fun to explore. And, well, yeah, it was a blast, guys. Thanks for watching.